Jai Shri Ram. By the grace of Lord Sri Krishna, Lord Sri Jagannath, Lord Sri Ram, we will continue the story of Ramayana Part 2, Chapter 2, Devastation in Ayodhya. If you are not watched the previous chapter of Ramayana, you may go to the playlist or click on the I button and watch the video of Ramayana so that you can connect the beautiful journey of Ramayana. The chapter 2, Devastation in Ayodhya. It is like this. After Ram and his party had gone into the jungle on the other side of Gangas, Sumantra and Guha spent some time speaking together about Ram. Both were shocked and saddened to realize his firm intention to spend 14 years in the deep forest. They had both been hoping that he would relent and perhaps return to Ayodhya to punish the evil Kaikai, who did not deserve any kindness, or he could at least remain with Guha and his peoples, where he could be reached easily. Now he was gone. Guha heard from his spies about Ram's meeting with Bharadwaja and is going on from there to the Chitrakuta mountain. Sadly, the Nisada king returned to his own home in the city of Sri Garvera, from where he ruled over the forest tribes. As the reality of Ram's departure sank in, Sumantra drove the chariot back towards Ayodhya. After 2 days traveling, he arrived to find the city subdued and silent, overpowered by grief. Sumantra entered by the southern gate. As the empty chariot moved along the road, hundreds and thousands of people approached it crying, "Oh Ram, have you really gone? Where is that thoughtless hero? Alas, we are forsaken and lost." Sumantra Sumantra afflicted at hearing their laments, covered his head with his garment. He felt ashamed to have been the one who took Ram away. He made his way along the royal highway to Dasharatha's palace. Hearing the wails of the women who stood on the balcony of their house, gazing upon the chariot now bereft of its passengers, Sumantra reached the palace and went quickly through the first 7 gates, arriving at the eighth, which lead to king's inner chambers. He entered the large room and found the king seated on a couch, pale and withered from grief. The charioteer described his journey from Ayodhya to with Ram. Dasharatha listened in complete silence, and then, having heard of Ram definite entrance into the forest, fell senseless to the floor. Seeing their husband fallen, the ladies burst into tears. Kausalya, assisted by Sumitra, lifted him up and said, "Why do you not reply to the charioteer, my lord? He has carried out a most difficult task on your behalf. Are you feeling ashamed for perpetrating such an unseemly act? Be fixed in your determination, O king, for you have firmly addressed to truth. Do not submit to this grief, as we had depends upon you will not be able to survive seeing you filled with such despair." Kausalya spoke with a filtering voice. Her dear son, whom she had not been able to go without seeing for even a day, was now gone for 14 years. She dropped in a faint next to her husband. All the ladies flocked around, sprinkling cool scented water on the face of the monarch and his queen, who lay like a god, and his consort fallen from heaven. When Dasharatha awoke from his swoon, he summoned Sumitra, who stood silently nearby. The charioteer was covered in dust, and his face was streaked with tears. With folded hand, he stood respectfully before the king. Dasharatha signed dolefully and said to Sumitra, "Where will Ram live now? Taking shelter under a tree and sleeping on the bare ground. What will he eat? The prince has known only luxury and deserved the best of everything. Formerly, he would always be followed by my great army. How can he now live alone in the desolate forest?" Although Ram and Lakshmana had grown up to become fierce fighters, to the emperor they were still his tender young sons. Dasharatha could hardly tolerate the thought of their living a life of austerity and abnegation. Along with the gentle Sita, anxiously he imagined the scene facing his two boys. How could they survive in the wild among carnivorous animals and venomous snakes? The king continued, "Did you follow them as they walk along into some black and lonely land? What were their last words? O Sumatra, pray to tell me what they uttered as they were living, for this shall be my only substance for the coming of 14 years." Dasharatha stood up and looked into the charioteer's face, whose head hung down and who was shaking with sorrow. With a choked voice, Sumitra replied to the king, "The ever truthful Rama asked me to touch yours and Kausalya's feet on his behalf. O great king, he requested me to convey his fond farewell to all the ladies in the royal court who are to Ram just like his own mother." After bowing at the feet of the king and queen, Sumitra continued to speak with difficulty, describing his parting from Ram and the others faithfully. He recounted the exact messages the two princes had given him. Ram, who was constantly shedding tears as he spoke, asked that Bharat be quickly installed as the prince regent. He left instruction that Bharata should accord all respect to his aged father and to all of his mothers, especially the grief-stricken Kausalya. The charioteer then recalled the final angry words of Lakshmana. When Ram stopped speaking, Lakshmana hissing like an engaged cobra said, "For what offense has this virtuous prince been exiled? The king has carried out Kausalya order without considering its merit. Sorry, KK orders without considering its merit. Regardless of his reasoning, I find no justification whatsoever for the emperor's decision to send away the sinless Ram. Ram's exile will end in remorse. It contradicts all good sense and is against tradition and even scripture. Having performed an act which has caused nothing but pain to all the people, how can father remain all as the king any longer? Indeed, I cannot even see in him the qualities of a father. For me, Rama alone is my brother, master, and father." Sumatra, having summoned of the vehemence with which Lakshmana had spoken, calmed himself down and described his last sight of Sita. The blessed princess Sita stood silently as I prepared to leave, as though her mind were possessed by an evil spirit. She remained motionless and distracted, having deep sighed. Gazing upon her husband's face, she suddenly burst into tears, covering her own face with her two bejeweled hands, which looked like two white lotus. Then the three of them stood watching as I drove to the chariot away. Dasharatha asked Sumatra to describe his return journey, and the charioteers reply, or Sumatra replied, I remained with Guha for 3 days, hoping and praying that Ram would return. Finally, I concluded that I would not see him again until the full 14 years had expired. I yoked up the chariot and urged the horse to move, but they remained stationary, shedding tears of grief. After much cajoling, they finally moved, and I proceeded on the path back to Ayodhya. Sumatra stopped speaking for some time as he struggled to control his feelings. After sipping a little water, he continued describing the scene he had witnessed on his return. On all sides in the kingdom, he saw signs of grief and separation from Ram. Even the tree with their flowers and leaves looked withered. The lakes and rivers were dry up, and everywhere there were beasts and birds entirely immobile, not even searching for food. The woods were silent and gave off none of their former fragrance. The parks and gardens in the city appeared desolate and deserted. No one greeted him as he entered Ayodhya. Everywhere were shining men and women, lost in thoughts of Ram. As they saw the empty chariot, they let out they let out tremendous cries of grief. Even the animals wore worst expression. On the top of a high building, he saw noble ladies gazing mutely at each other, their eyes overfolded with tears. The city appears devoid of all happiness, looking exactly like the Empress Kausalya before of her beloved son. After Sumitra stopped speaking, Dasharatha became pensive, feeling extreme regret. He had how hard he stood by as Ram had left. Why did he not reprimand the wicked Kaikai? He crushed his foolish at- attachment to virtue that brought about such an unvirtuous end. Where was the truth in banishing the truthful Prince Ram? In a piteous voice, the king exclaimed, it was out of infatuation of my wife alone that I exiled Ram. I did not seek any counsel with my ministers and wise advisors, being dictated to by the sinful Kaikai. Dasharatha wondered how he could have acted so contrary to his own good sense and wisdom. Surely this great calamity had suddenly happened by the will of a providence, simply to destroy his race. The king signed, feeling helpless in the hand of fate. Turning to Sumitra, Dasharatha said, O charioteers, if I have ever done you any good turn, Then please quickly take me to Ram. My mind is drawn irresistibly to the prince. If I am still the king today, then let anyone fetch Ram back to the Ayodhya. I shall not survive for even an hour longer without Ram. Where is that Ram, whose shining face is adorned with pearl like teeth? Maybe that mighty arm princess has gone far into the woods by now. Bring me a chariot and I shall immediately make a haste to see him. If I do not soon catch a sight of Ram, I shall reach death aboard this very day. Dasharatha had been hoping beyond hope that Sumatra might somehow have returned with his sons. Realizing the finality of Ram's departure, the king gave full vent to his terrible grief. O Ram, O Lakshmana, O Sita, what could be more painful for me than not seeing you there, here? You do not know that I am dying from agony, like a lost and forlorn creature. The emperor fell senseless onto a couch close to him. Kausalya tossed about on the floor as thought possessed by a spirit. Seeing Sumatra, she exclaimed, Charioteer, yoke off the chariot and take me to Ram, for I shall not live another moment without him. Where now is my son reposing, his head placed upon his mighty arm? When again will I see his charming features surrounded by curling black locks? I think my heart is as hard as a diamond. Otherwise, why does it not shelter to pieces even though I do not see Ram? Sumatra felt all the more agonized himself as he saw the grief of king and queen. He tried to comfort Kausalya. I think your son will settle happily in the forest along with Lakshmana and Sita. Indeed, I did not detect in them any dejection of the prospect of living as ascetics. Shaking off their grief, they appeared pleased upon approaching the forest. Sita seemed especially happy, much delighted at the sight and sound of the woods. Kausalya, not pleased by Sumitra's kind words, turned towards Dasaratha, admonishing him out of grief and love. My lord, you are famous in all the three worlds for your compassion and kindness. Yet you thoughtlessly banished your faultless son. How will you, how will your two gentle boys ever accumulated to every luxury live like hermits? How will the frail Sita, a child of a merry 16 years, survive the ravage of the forest life? Sita has always been offered the very best of cooked food and will surely not survive on wild routes. How will she bear the terrible roars of lions and tigers? Kausalya became increasingly angry and as she spoke. Her eyes reddened and black streak of collyrium ran down her cheeks. She censured Dasaratha for his cruelty. You have utterly devastated, devastated Rama of his right to the king. She cried. Even after returning to Ayodhya, Ram will surely not accept the kingdom. High class men can never enjoy items left by others. Ram will therefore not accept the kingdom left by his younger brothers, even as a tiger would not eat the food brought to him by another animal. Kausalya's her mind was absorbed in thoughts of her son, and she raved inconsolably. How could Dasharatha have perpetrated such an evil act? Kausalya replied to at the king, holding her head in her hands. Ram has been ruined by his own father, even as a brood of fish are swallowed by their fathers. I believe, my lord, that you can no longer tell right from wrong. The main support for a woman is her husband. The son is the second. Therefore, like Ram, I am also ruined. My husband have lost his good sense and my son gone away. This whole kingdom has been ruined by you. All you people, all your people have been destroyed. Only Kaikai and her son are happy. Kausalya stopped speaking and began to sob uncontrollably. Dasharatha, already deeply remorseful, felt even more anguish upon hearing his wife's words, carrying out O Ram again and again. He sat disconsolate. With great difficulty he gathered his sense and went before Kausalya with folded hands, speaking in a trembling voice, his head hanging down. Be kind to me, O godly lady. You are merciful even to your enemies. What then to speak of me? The husband is always the lord of the wife in good or evil times. Seeing me to be sorely pained, you should not increase my grief by such harsh words. Kausalya immediately felt sorry. She took Dasharatha's hand and folded them around her head, kneeling before him and weeping. She spoke harshly through her confusion. Now I am surely ruined for having spoken words disagreeable to my husband. I deserve to be punished by you, who I know to be always truthful. She is a wicked and low-born woman who must be seized by her worthy and virtuous husband. Kausalya was afflicted by many strong feelings and her mind becomes completely distracted. Her grief, despair, and anger at losing Ram were now compounded by remorse and guilty at having upset Dasharatha. She had spoken in an almost hysterical manner. Hysterical manner. Pray forgive me, O King, overcome by grief. I utter unseemly words. Grief destroys patience, eradicates knowledge, and confounded the sense. Indeed, there is no enemy like grief. Even a great blow from an enemy can endure, but the smallest amount of grief is intolerable. The 5 nights that Rama has been gone seem to me like 5 years. Even as I remember Ram, again my grief glows like the ocean receiving the rapid flow of many large rivers. As Kausalya was speaking, the sun set. Dasharatha, being comforted by his wife, fell into a fitful slumber of an hour. Often waking, he sat sighing and recalled sometimes he had done when he was a young prince. Realizing that a long fast deeds to be cause of his parent suffering, Dasharatha related to it to Kausalya. Without doubt, a person received the results of his own action, good or bad. Oh, glorious queen, the king said, he who acts without consideration of the result, both immediate and long term, is surely a fool. It's surely a fool. If a man cut down a mango group because the tree have unattractive blossoms, painting instead the brightly flowers polos or trees, he will later lament when the bitter fruits of the polaso appear. By sending Rama away, I have indeed cut down a mango group just as it was about to bear fruit. Now I am tasting the bitter polaso. Dasharatha felt as if his heart might burst. He maintained his composure with a great effort and continued. As long time ago, as a youth and before we were married, I went to the forest to hunt. I had acquired great skill at blacksmithship and could easily hit even an invisible target by its sound alone. Little did I know that this skill of mine, of which I was so proud, would yield such a disastrous result. It was it was the rainy seasons and the rivers were swollen. Going out at night on my chariot, I made my way to the Sarayu. I waited there in the darkness by the river bank for a buffalo or an elephant to come by. Soon I heard the sound of gurgling at the point nearby, although I could not see what caused the sound, thinking the sound to be that of an animal shrinking. I took out an arrow and released it. From the quarters where I shoot my snake-like arrow, there come a loud wails of some forest dwellers. In distinct and pain-filled tones I heard following cries. How has this weapon fallen of a harmless ascetic like myself? To whom to whom have I given any offense? I am a simple seer who has forsworn violence and lives only fruits and roots. Oh, I am killed. Foolish person has held this arrow. This act will result only in evil. I do not grieve so much for myself, but for my aged and helpless parent. Without me, their sole support. How how will they survive? With a single arrow, some ignorant fool of uncontrolled mind has killed me and both my parents. Weeping at the while the Sarata continued, when I heard that pl- plaintive shout, I was mortified. My bow and arrows fell from my hand. I was all but overwhelmed with grief and dropped to the ground, almost losing my sense. I scrambled towards the source of the voice with my mind utterly perplexed. There, I laying on the bank of river was an Aztec where tree bark garments. My arrow was protruding from his chest, smeared with dust and blood, with his thick mass of matted hair in disarray. He lay groaning. He had come for water, and the sound I had heard was the gurgling. of his pitcher, which lay nearby with its water run out. Seeing me to be loyalty, the ascetic looked up at me with blood-soiled eyes and spoke angrily. What wrong have I done, O king, that I should receive this terrible punishment? I came here to fetch water for my blind parents. Even now, as the lie here dying, my poor father must be wondering where I am. But what he do? He is old and feeble and cannot even move. They can no more help me than could any tree help another which is about to be hewn down. Seek his forgiveness, O king. You should quickly make your way along this path to where he waits. Dasaratha. Grief for Ram was compounded by the grief caused by remembering this long past unfortunate incident. With difficulty, he continued to speak. The young hermit, writhing in agony, asked me to exact, extract the arrow. I hesitated, knowing that the instant the arrow was removed, he would die. The boy reassured me, telling me that he was prepared for death. I thus pulled out the arrow, looking at me in dismay due to anxiety about his parents. The boy died, uttering the name of Vishnu. Seeing the ascetic laying die, killed by me out of ignorance and folly, I wondered how I could make amends. I quickly fielded his pictures and followed the path he had shown me towards his parents. As I reached the hermitage, I saw his aged and blind parents sitting forlorn like a pair of birds whose wings have been clipped. When he heard me approach, the boy's father said, "Do not delay, my son. Bring the water immediately. Your poor mother is in anxiety because you have been sporting in the river for a long time. Your life depends upon you. Our life is depends upon you, dear child. You are our only support and did our very eyes. Where are you? Why do you not speak?" I was grieved by fear to behold the sage, and I replied to him in a filtered voice, "O holy sage, I am not your son, but a prince named Dasharatha. I have committed a most terrible and evil act out of sheer folly. Hearing your son collecting water, I mistook him for a beast daring drinking. I released a deadly arrow and killed your boy. As a result of my rash act, your son has ascended to heaven, leaving you here. Please tell me what I should do now." When he heard my story, the sage, through rich in ascetic power, thereby capable to burning me with a curse, restrained himself, shining in sorrow with his face bathed in tears. That old Rusi, who appeared exceptionally glorious, said to me, "Had you not come here and confess, then as soon as the news of my boy's death reached me, your hands would have been split into 100 pieces by my anger. Indeed, if one consciously consciously kills a hermit engaged in austerity, then death is the immediate result. You are only survive now as you perform this deed in ignorance. The sage asked me to take him to the place where his son lay. I immediately lifted both of the elderly ascetics of my two arms and I carried them to the river banks, being placed near the dead body dead body of the boy. They cried out in agony and gently stroked his face. The sage said, "Why do you not greet us today, dearest son? Why do you not embrace here, my tender son? Please speak to us." Whose heart-moving voice will we now hear beautifully reciting the holy Vedic text. Who now will tend the sacred fire? Who will comfort us with consoling words? Deprived as we are now of our only support. My son, how will I be able to support your old mother? The sage sat weeping for some time, lost in grief. Holding his son's head, he said, "Pray, wait a while, dear boy, and do not yet proceed to Yamaraj abode. I shall go with you and speak to the God on your behalf, saying, although my son has killed as a result of some former sin, he has in fact become sinless. Therefore, grant to him those reasons which are attainable by only by Brahmins perfect in asceticism and study of scriptures, or by heroes who drop their body while fighting fearlessly for the good of the people." Wailing piteously, the ascetic and his wife offered sanctified water to his dead son with mantras and prayers. I then saw the boy appear in an ethereal form along with Indra, the king of heaven. He gently consoled his parents, saying that he had achieved his exalted status as a result of his service to them. He said they would soon join him in heaven. The boy then left, seated next to Indra in a shining celestial car. At that time, the sage said to me, in order to release you from the terrible sin of killing an ascetic, which can drag even the gods down to hell, I shall pronounce upon you a painful course. Just as I am dying now in the agony of separation from my son, so in the future shall you die in the grief of the separation from your son. After saying this, the sage had me light a fire and place upon it his son body. Along with his wife, he then entered the fire. The two ascetics gave up their bodies and went to heaven, leaving me stunned and pondering the sage's word. Dasharatha was suddenly afraid as he realized that, in accord with a sage infallible course, his death was now near. Controlling his mind, he called out for Kausalya. His eyes were blinded with tears and his mind was trembling. He said to his wife, that course uttered so long ago by the sage is now coming to pass. I shall soon die of a grief. Come here, Kausalya, for I cannot see you clearly. Men on the threshold of death have all their sense compounded. Kausalya sat closely to her husband and comforted him with soft words. Dasaratha becomes deeply absorbed in remembrance of Ram. He longed hard for a last sight of him. He felt against and remorseful, wishing he had somehow been able to stop Ram from leaving. The king lay back upon the couch and spoke in a trembling voice. This grief is dying of my vitality, even as the blazing summer shocks out the earth moisture. Blessed are they who will see the pure and handsome Ram return 14 years from now. I can no longer see or hear any. All my senses are failing along with my mind. Just as the bright ray of lamp appears when its oil has run out. This grief born of my own self is rendering me helpless and unconscious. Just as the current of a swift river swearing is away its own bank. O Ram, reliever of my suffering, are you really gone? O Kausalya, O my dear wife, O Sumitra, pious lady, O Koikei, my shown enemy and disgrace of my family. Dasaratha lamented and tossed about in agony for some time. Gradually he became silent, his mind fixed upon Ram. Stricken with the intolerable pain of separation, the great empire gave up its life during the night and ascended to the highest abode of the Supreme Lord. This is how the story, uh, how Lord, how Dasaratha lived his body and in the separation from Ram. Jai Jagannath, Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Shri Ram.